All right, today's kind of fun because I'm working on another lighting project. You've seen in some of my previous videos the lights that I've been doing in the front, but now we need to get the lights done in the middle part of the camper, basically right here. And my plan is to start with this rear section since I'm kind of working rear to forward. And so I've printed up a bunch of pieces and it's similar to the one that we did before, but it's kind of a neat construction project and I had to really think about it engineering wise. I mean, I spent a lot of time working on the CAD to try and get this right and adjusting this and adjusting that. And I finally got something I think is going to work really well. I've learned from some of my previous mistakes, one of which I'll show you here in a second. But anyways, what I've got here, first, I'm going to be using these lights. I love these lights. These lights are freaking awesome. They are these little they're each 1 watt. And so basically, if I use 10, I've got a 10-watt bulb. They're pretty bright, and when they're on, they look really spectacular, as you can kind of see here. They give this kind of neat, ultra-modern look. So I'll be using a bunch of those. I also ordered more of these, which is my favorite gooseneck light. I'm going to be using this throughout the camper as reading lights. I've also got them in the truck, as you can see here, as map lights, and they work really, really well, so I enjoy that a lot. So I'm really happy with these. They even let you do a little bit of a brightness adjustment, and they have a USB plug built into them. I don't know what I didn't look what the actual amperage is. It doesn't say on here. But, you know, really neat little guys. And these put out really nice reading light, which is important, especially for Matilda, who has to have good light for reading. Now, the way I did, this is the piece that is, I'm going to have 2 of these pieces. They'll go parallel up in that roof area. I've already put this one together. It's got the 5 lights in it already. It's got this thing here, which I printed, which is specifically, and I learned this my lesson from the last one, this is a mount for my reading lamps, because these, they come with a little mounting bracket of their own. This right here. And what you're supposed to do is screw this in and put these into the roof, and or into where you want. And then, of course, these go sliding into here, and you tighten a little set screw. Well, I just made an equivalent right here of the actual print. So it's actually printed up, which is really nice because I can actually adjust as I see fit. This little set screw here will tighten up, and I can essentially set it for wherever I want it here. And you'll see once they're in place, that will be very helpful to have some flexibility like that. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to show you how I actually put this together because, I don't know, it seems interesting to me and helpful. One of the interesting things, and I had to really think about this a lot when I was doing the CAD work and actually the 3D printing, was how to print this up. And the problem is that it was going to require a lot of supports, as you can see. And that belt printer does a really nice job of printing long things if you can keep the majority of the surface to the belt itself. Otherwise, it tends to fail. And I was getting a lot of failures because this was just, once again, there was too many places I needed supports. I didn't want to put the supports on this side because I wanted this to be a good side, and the best side prints up on this printer, actually, interestingly. So I ended up breaking it down into 2 parts. I ended up breaking it down into this part, which is the part we see, with some alignment screws, holes, which I will actually use with screws to align it once I put the super glue on. And then this part, which is the part where the wires all go in and allow me to put the, as you may have seen the other one, put the connector for all the wires for the LEDs right here. So what that does is let me print them separately. I printed it with this on the belt, and that prints nice. Printed this up on the belt, and that printed nice. And then I'll just glue and screw, as I like to say, these 2 things together like this. So we'll end up with the final part. It really does help sometimes to break things into multiple parts. I prefer not to if I can help it, but at the end of the day, the best way to print it is often 2 or 3 pieces that you then put together later. So we'll do that. We'll put together this with some super glue, and we'll screw it down and get it all tightened up. And then I'll wire up this one and we can test out the lights and see how it looks. And then put this one and this one in place along with a cross piece and hopefully be able to show a final lighted product by the end of the video. So, you know, with any luck. By the way, I know I always say this, but like and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. It just adds numbers to my following so that basically at some point I'll be taken seriously by YouTube. Not that I really care too much. I'm not taken seriously by anybody else. So, but if you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. All right, let's get to gluing this thing up. Oh, I need to open these holes up a little bit because I want these screws to just go down fairly easily into these holes. And the idea will be, if I can get them, the idea will be to use these screws more as an alignment tool to align to the holes, because it's really going to be the super glue that holds this whole thing together. But I like a little extra strength, period. These are too short. Let's see if I got some longer ones here that I can use. I keep every screw in every kit that comes because it really helps me when I need something like this. And believe me, things come with all the hardware anymore that I don't even use half the time. So if I save the hardware, it's really useful. All right, let's see. Okay, I feel like that is long enough right there. All right, and it won't penetrate, shouldn't penetrate through. It won't penetrate through the bottom of that. So I'll get these screws in place so that they're all set up so I can use them for alignment, because I want to get the glue on, but I don't want to mess around with it. Once the glue's on, I'd like to kind of get the thing screwed down and let that glue set up. These turn freely once they're in here, and that lets me kind of torque them down to the lower piece. So I made the hole just big enough to hold them in place, but not to where they would fight me when it comes to turning them. Now the holes over in the small piece, these are smaller holes, so they will grab. All right, all set up to be lined up. I've been using this Gorilla Super Glue gel, and seems to work pretty well so far. Doesn't get too messy. Lets me control it a little bit. Kind of is thick enough that for this kind of thing, it kind of sits around where I want it. It has little wings that you squeeze to push out the super glue. Never sure how much I'm going to get out of it, though. You can't really see how much glue is in there. I mean, it says 5.5 grams, but what does that mean? I'm not sure how long it's going to last. All right. And just like that, we should have a nice setup for basically a nice single solid piece here. All right, now I'm going to put the lights in, because I have to actually super glue them in as well. I should test them to make sure they all work before I do that. I did not do that with this large one here. It will stink if I have to knock some out. So I think maybe that's what I'm going to do next. All right, so I got my 12-volt power supply. I think the first thing I'll do is test these guys, make sure that the ones I've put in place actually work first. And then I'll test the ones I'm going to put into the next place after that. Let's see. So that's good. All right. So far, so good. 5 out of 5. So far, I haven't had any bad LEDs, but I just really should be checking them nonetheless. So I've got 4 here, and I'll need to pull out some more out of the new one, but let's make sure these are good. Last time, I made these holes pretty tight. I could almost friction the lights in, but it was also hard on them. So I just decided I would go a slightly larger and rely on the super glue. Besides that, friction over time could change anyways, and so it might not hold as well as I'd like. So, takes very little super glue though. Not gluing my skin together, that's the #1 job here. I tend to like to do that. Of course, when I had my injury and glued my injury closed, it was great that super glue works so well for that. Don't even have a scar. But I'm a doctor, don't try that at home. All right, let's set this aside and let those dry up for a few hours, or at least while we're doing the other stuff. And now, I'm going to get to wiring this. I think I alluded to this earlier. I've got all these wire channels, which is really nice. And what I'm going to do is wire everything up to this little, basically it's just a distributor. It's a little, it'll distribute out my DC power. And then I will screw that in place in here. Once it's all wired up, it'll only be 2 wires out of this, and that should light the whole 5 light unit. So we'll see how that goes. One of the nice things about working with LEDs is they're very low wattage. So you don't need a lot of, you don't need a very large gauge wire for the LED parts. This is actually overkill right now. I'm going to use 18 gauge wire as kind of the main wire for the whole distribution panel, which is way more than it needs. But I'd rather overwire than underwire. When you think about it, there's only 5 watts here, which is less than half an amp. One of the things I like to use is I like to crimp. I like to use the ends. I like to crimp with these wire terminators. It really cleans things up. It also makes it much less likely that they will come loose or short out. Adds a little extra protection as far as insulation is concerned around the wires themselves. Which is especially good when you're going to be putting them in fairly close proximity to each other. Bus bar, little bus bar, that's actually what I meant to say. And they're all different. You have to kind of look. Some bus bars will distribute it like red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black. It really is interesting. This one is, all this will be red, or A, and all these will be black. But once again, I've been kind of fooled or stymied before, going, what's going on? It turns out the distribution is slightly different on that particular bus bar. All right. Now once I hook this up to the main power, I should have DC across this whole thing. Won't need any soldering, I don't think, on this unit. I think, yep, we should be fine. The length of these leads won't need to be extended. Another mistake I made on a previous unit was to not make this part wide enough. I made it right for the wide enough for the bus bar, but I wasn't thinking very well about getting the wires in there. Even with this one, I have to kind of bend them up a little bit, but that should be fine. Nothing like fiddly. All right, well, I've hooked it up to the 12-volt power supply, so I haven't tried turning it on yet. Let's see how it goes. Success. Quite happy with that. All right, that's good. So now I need to do the other one, and then we need to put it in place, hook it up, and see how it works. Man, on wide angle, this place looks huge, doesn't it? Anyways, this is where the lights are going to go, as I showed earlier. And I've got them all wired up now. So now the key will be to put them in place. Basically, just screw them into place. I've got screw holes here and here. And then we can basically get to doing the lighting. Now, before I do that, I've got this mid piece here that actually goes right across here and actually will act as a way of doing spacers on this side. So I'm going to get this one mounted, use it to cut the insulation for the right size, and then we'll put the two side pieces in and see how it goes. I'm going to have to put a hole through this spar for wires. Most of my wiring is actually going superficial to the frame, but this is 1.5 inches, and I don't have a lot of room here, and so I'm just going to go ahead and put a hole through for the wires there. Be one of the few exceptions. Another decision that I've made is these spars are not going to actually be centered to the actual center of the camper. I'm going to use this line here because there's going to be cabinetry that's 16 inches over there, making this whole section feel a little bit more off center. And that's one of the reasons I put the window like this. So I'm going to center essentially to the window. And these will basically be going like this. And then once those counters are in place, I don't even think people will notice the off-center nature, or it may look more centered actually. All right, for these three here, I'm going to put riv nuts in. I could just thread the aluminum, but the riv nuts often give it a little bit more strength. The key has got to be, though, not to over torque them. If you've been following along, you know I have a kind of love-hate with riv nuts. I really think they're awesome, but they're limited in their strength. They can be temperamental, and if you over torque them, they're useless, and you have to drill them out. And of course, if you put them in with too much pressure, you can bust the threads. But once you get the hang of it, they're generally pretty darn useful. Somebody out there is overcompensating with their music. I blew that one. I started crimping it. You can see if you crimp it, that's what it's supposed to do to hold on into the metal. But I started over crimping it before I could hold it in place. So I'll have to put another one on. Okay. Those are going to be fine. So now I'm going to drill a bigger hole. I've got these little rubber grommets that I can use. that I can line the hole both sides, this side and this side with. And that'll protect the wires from the sharpness of the metal. And I'm only running essentially 4 wires. This pair of wires plus a smaller set of wires. First I'll put bigger holes in this. Probably have to get to close to a 1/2 inch. All right, I'm gonna change plans. What I'm gonna do is drill these holes out a little bit bigger, and then I'm gonna 3D print a tube that I can put all the way through that I can glue into this place, and that way that'll protect the wire, but it'll go all the way through and I don't have to worry about it messing up or hurting the wire as it moves around in that hole. So that's what I'm going to do. So, okay, I'm going to use my favorite application here, which is Onshape. And, you know, it's really it's a full-blown CAD program. It's incredibly powerful. I have just scratched the surface, but I've been able to do most anything I want to do with it. This will be a very easy one. What I will do is I will just create a very simple thing, which will essentially be, I'm not going to try to explain how Onshape works, because at the same time, this is a whole thing you could spend a long time learning. But it is a good program to learn if you want to do any kind of really detailed 3D drawing. Now, I said the outer circle I want to be no more than 1/2 inch. So we'll set that for 1/2 inch. And I will create another circle with a fairly thin wall here. See, it's 12.7 millimeters right now. I don't even want it to be much more than 1 mil, but we'll make it, let's try 11.5 millimeters. All right, that'll give us just slightly over 1 millimeter thick wall. That should be about right. That will be the tube that goes through the hole. And then I want a flange that I can glue to one side so it doesn't slip around at all. Okay, so that's the drawing I need. Now I can just create by extruding these guys. Once again, not trying to explain this beyond a certain degree, but give you just an idea of how this whole thing works. All right, so I'm going to extrude that. Now it has to go through an inch of the aluminum. Its width is 1 inch. That's about 25 millimeters. But I actually would like it to protrude a little bit longer to give me just some extra safety margin for wires. So I'll make it 1.25 inches long. And then what I'm going to do is do my little flange, which is this right here. And I'll make it 3 millimeters thick. That almost seems more than I need, but you know, that's all right. So now we've got ourselves a little tube with a flange on it like this. I can round these off. I'm going to round these off a little bit. As you can see, the program lets me what we call chamfer or round or bevel. I'm going to do the same here. And the idea is just, once again, no sharp edges. The wires will have a nice rounded passageway to go through. All right, there we go. So even round, so you can see now it's a hollow tube. Should be just the right thickness or just slightly smaller than that hole I drilled. And on this side, we'll be able to glue right here, and it should stay right up against the aluminum. And then we've got a place to run the wire through. I'm gonna have to make a couple of these because there's a couple different spars that are gonna have to be passed through. I'm going to export it. And then I'm going to Bamboo Studio, what we just did spar tube setup. There it is. I'm going to let the program auto set it for the right direction, which should be flipped over. Yep, that's exactly what I want. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it. And I'll just do 2 for now, because even if I need more, I want to make sure these work. And so now I just have to send these to the printer, and we're going to do it. PETG is what we're going to make it out of. That's what I tend to work with most of the time. I also have a lot of it. I have PETG carbon fiber, so that's fine. We'll just send that, and then we'll print it. By the way, I went ahead and did what I've been doing on everything is I use the silver tape once I've got all the wires in place and soldered and stuff, just to kind of give it a little more protection, and also to, well, that's the main reason. And besides, it looks good even if you're not going to see it. All right, let's see. So, all right, once again, that's how that's going to go. This wire now will come on this side, which is where I want it, for wiring up with this wire, which is going to go through that hole that we have to put that protector in. Okay, bit by bit, I've got the piece of insulation. And with these ceiling insulations, I'm actually going to glue them in place. They will be held, obviously, by these pieces of plastic, of printed cross member, but I also just don't want any downward pressure if I can help it on those. And it's just gonna, once again, everything, the tighter I can make everything, the better, I think. All right, that looks good. And the wires will be on the surface of this, which is what they're supposed to be. I'm in good clothes. I don't want to mess them up. I am going to put the tube in from this side. It'll extend into here, and that should give us plenty to feed wire through. Okay. All right. Now what I need to do is I need to drill a hole for here, here, and here, and here, so that I can mount this sucker up there. It looks like in these two, because they're going to go into plastic, I'm probably going to do heat nuts. I'll probably do the nuts that I use a soldering iron to push into. Back here, I'll use riv nuts for these, because these are just going to go into this aluminum. So these are heat sinkable nuts, and you put them on a soldering iron that has a special adapter that allows you to put the nut on there, and then heats it up, and you can just sink it into your PETG, which is great. I've also learned that you don't want to go too small on the hole that you drill before you go into the PETG, because it has a tendency to melt plastic into it. It's just the perfect size hole, actually. Okay, that's one. And that's two. Another reason I think I might put some glue on this part, these right here, is because these threads are not super strong. And once again, this thing's going to be bouncing around a lot. So I think if I add the extra glue there, it will not hurt at all. So, okay, I've applied some glue. And now I'm just going to stick it in place. And now, hope that my screw holes lined up. I actually gave myself some grace by giving myself some. When I made the holes, I made them long and narrow so I can have a slot instead of a hole. I actually don't want the screws to be too long because otherwise they'll try to go too far into the threaded nut and then reach plastic, which is a problem. So let's see. All right. That feels good. Now, once again, I'm hoping that the glue will also take up some of the strength. Because, like I said, I don't really trust these nuts to be super strong. I mean, they've also, because I'm going to be putting in carbon fiber, will go right in here for the roof. And actually, they will tie into these ones as well. So it'll be like almost like once the carbon fiber's in place, it'll hold the whole thing together just like a strut, like a gussets, like it does with all this other stuff over here. So we should be good. Now this one I'm not too worried about. This one I think should be pretty strong. Which is good because I'm going to pull it, use it to pull the whole thing into place. There's a little lip right here, and that's so that when I put the carbon fiber in, I'm not using this pattern, although it's awfully pretty. It'll basically allow me to put it right up there with a little bit of lip, and then we'll continue with the carbon fiber on this side, this way. So it should look very slick. Oh yeah, I don't want to tighten these much because I will loosen them in the plastic. Otherwise, I just made the holes just so not quite snug enough, but that's okay. Once again, like I said, these are well attached into the aluminum frame, so that when I put the carbon fiber in all this, a big square of carbon fiber, it will definitely hold it all together very nicely. Beautiful. All right. Okay. Well, now all I need to do is go get those pieces of plastic that I printed, see if we can get it to go through here, and send all these wires through it. I actually am going to try and send all the wires to the next one over here, but I think we should have plenty of room looking at that. So let's see how this goes. All right, if I've done this right, here's the piece right here that I printed, little tube, and you can see it's nice, and we should be able to get the wires through it. Nice rounded part here and here. And we should be able to slide this. I should be able to feel it coming through the other side. Ah, there it is. All right, that is perfect. Now I will have to glue it to make sure that it stays in place. What I'll just do is the same mastic I've been using for the window, the tiles and everything else. I'll just put a glop of it on here. Here's where I'm going to wear too much of it. All right, let's see. So I just got to do this. And there we go. And once that hardens up, it should be really solid. And it penetrates all the way through, so the wire should not have to rub on any aluminum at all, which is very, very critical. Okay. There's one. There's two. As I was thinking about the wiring, I realized these are live all the time. These are not switched. These go to the back lights. These are going to be switched at the door. But these also need to be I need to have these available to this right here, because this is where the reading lamps are going to go. So I think I'm going to pull this back through here, and we'll go get the reading lamps and put them in, and put their wires in, and go from there. Okay, here's one of the reading lamps. And I think I'm going to mount it like this. And the reason is, it has quite a bit of flexibility. I can use it shining down on the table like that. You can pull it back and make it more of a book reading light this way. But you can also, like I said, you can kind of centralize them for more of a table dinner time. So that's what I'm going to do. Also, they need to be in such a way that when the thing closes, which they will, if they get smushed, they just smash up flat, which is the idea. They actually shouldn't be in that configuration anyways, but when I close this for the first time in a while, we'll know then, won't we? All right. So at this point, after a lot of cursing and gnashing of teeth, I finally got these guys in place with the wires, the appropriate wires out where they're supposed to be. And I got the lights in place. And I got nice and covered in black goo. So at this point, I've just got to wire them up. Then I want to turn them on and see how they look, and then be done for the evening. Now, to wire this up temporarily, I'm going to use these kind of wire connectors, these Wurzbro, I think they're called wire connectors. That's a style. Very, very good. I love them. I don't tend to use them for permanent wiring in the truck because I prefer to solder them. It's just a better connection in the long run. But for now, to get them all testing, make sure everything's working, these are great because you can open them and close them. So these ones are nice too because they you can put, it basically splits one into three. So basically it's a great way for me to be doing like four instead of a wire cap using this. And there we have it. I've got these lights put in. I haven't got the switch in for them yet, but the reading light switches are working. You can see that. I can switch this one on or off. And you know, they're very directional. I can direct them anywhere I want for reading and stuff like that. So that is really fantastic. And then, of course, if I turn on these lights up here, I'm even getting more light. I'm going to actually turn off the fill light here for a second so you can just kind of see what it looks like with just the light from the lights itself. It's not bad. So right now, you're just looking at what it looks like with the lights on that I have in here. I also have the front lights done. Now I just got to put the lights that fill in this section right up here, and they'll be the same as this. They'll just go down in a pattern just like that. And I can tell you right now, I'm very happy with the amount of light we have here on the work table. So I can't wait. The table's going to be coming up fairly soon, and that's going to be really nice. I'm going to have a nice carbon fiber table. And yeah, we're starting to get this back together.